In the dark alleys of Busan, whispers always carried the name of Kang Dae-hyun, the feared Korean mafia boss. Ruthless, calculated, and untouchable. He was a man whose eyes alone could silence a room. But when Jennifer, a young Kenyan lady, stepped into his world, she didn't tremble like the others. Jennifer had come to Korea chasing a dream of building her own fashion brand. Fierce by nature, she was never one to bow, even when life cornered her. That night, fate threw her into Kang Dae-hyun's path. At a downtown cafe, she accidentally overheard details of a mafia deal. Before she could slip away, his men grabbed her and dragged her to the boss. Dae-hyun sat in a leather chair, his gaze cold. "Do you know what happens to people who hear what they shouldn't?" he asked, voice sharp as a blade. Most would have begged, but Jennifer's fiery eyes met him without fear. "I'm not afraid of you," she shot back. "You think power is in scaring people? That's a weakness." The room fell silent. His men expected her to be silenced forever, but something about her defiance intrigued Dae-hyun. No one, absolutely no one, had dared speak to him like that. For days, instead of disposing of her, he kept her close, testing her. Jennifer didn't cower. She challenged him. When he barked, she stood taller. When he threatened, she smirked. Slowly, the beast of Busan began to see himself reflected in her strength. One night, after a heated argument in his private office, he cornered her against the desk, anger flashing in his eyes. "You think you can change me, girl?" he growled. Jennifer leaned closer, her heartbeat steady. Not with fear, but with something stronger. Before he could respond, she kissed him, bold, fierce, and unafraid. The world seemed to stop. For the first time in years, Kang Dae-hyun's iron walls cracked. The kiss wasn't submission, it was defiance wrapped in fire. It disarmed him, mellowed the storm inside, and turned the feared mafia boss into a man who felt something he thought long dead. From that night, he was no longer just the mafia king of Busan. He was a man haunted and healed by Jennifer, the fierce young lady who melted him not with fear, but with a kiss. The kiss changed everything. For Kang Dae-hyun, the mafia boss who ruled Busan with an iron grip, nothing had ever shaken him like that moment. Jennifer's lips had not only stunned him, they had pierced through years of brutality and silence. He found himself replaying it, questioning his own cold heart. Jennifer, however, was not swayed so easily. She wasn't a damsel who would melt in highs at his presence. She had dreams. Her fashion sketches scattered across her tiny apartment were proof of the life she wanted. Yet, she couldn't deny that the man she kissed, though dangerous, was no longer just a monster in her eyes. She had seen vulnerability flicker beneath his rough exterior. But in the mafia world, softness was a sin. Dae-hyun's underbosses whispered, "Boss, she's distracting you. She's dangerous. A foreigner who knows too much." Even his right-hand man, Jun-sik, warned him, "If you don't cut her off now, enemies will use her against you." And they were right. A rival gang from Seoul soon caught wind of Jennifer. To them, she was the mafia king's weakness. One evening, as she returned from a fabric market, masked men cornered her. They tried to drag her into a black van, until Dae-hyun himself arrived, his men flooding the street like shadows. Gunfire erupted. Tires screeched. Jennifer screamed as Dae-hyun pulled her into his car, shielding her with his body. Back at his hideout, she shook with anger. "This is my life now? Being hunted? Because of you?" He looked at her, torn between rage and guilt. "You shouldn't have kissed me, Jennifer. You don't know what world you stepped into." But she stepped closer, eyes burning. "No, Dae-hyun, you don't know what it means to feel alive. I saw you tonight. You risked your life to save mine. Don't tell me you're just a monster. Because monsters don't protect people." For the first time, Kang Dae-hyun had no words. In the weeks that followed, their bond deepened in secret. She challenged his decisions, softened his nights, and slowly planted the idea that power wasn't just built on fear, but respect. And he, in return, guarded her fiercely, even if it meant going against his own rules. But the mafia world would not forgive love. Rival gangs plotted. His own men questioned his leadership. And Jennifer realized, loving Kang Dae-hyun wasn't just dangerous. It was a war she had unwillingly stepped into. Yet she wasn't afraid. For Jennifer was no ordinary girl. She was fired. And fire could burn even the darkest shadows. The more Jennifer stayed by Dae-hyun's side, the more cracks spread through his empire. His lieutenants saw it as weakness. His enemies saw it as an opening. One night in the grand hall of his Busan mansion, Dae-hyun sat at the head of a long table. His men surrounded him, tension thick in the air. Jun-sik, his right-hand man, stood. "Boss, forgive me, but this can't go on. She's not one of us. She's making you soft. And softness gets us killed." Dae-hyun's cold stare swept across the table. "Do you think fear alone has kept us alive?" he growled. "This woman has more courage than half of you sitting here." But the room erupted in murmurs of dissent. Loyalty was slipping. That night, Jennifer overheard two soldiers plotting in hushed voices. They wanted to sell her to the rival Seoul syndicate in exchange for power. Her stomach clenched, but instead of panicking, she did what no one expected. She went straight to Dae-hyun. "You can't protect me if your own men are ready to betray you," she said firmly. His fists clenched. "Then I'll make an example of them." But she caught his arm. "No. If you spill blood now, you'll prove them right, that you're only a monster who rules by fear. Let me help you another way." For the first time in his life, Dae-hyun listened to someone else. Days later, when the rival syndicate launched a full-scale attack on the port, his most profitable territory, Jennifer stood beside him. She refused to hide, even when bullets flew. While his men fought with guns, she used her wit, spotting enemy movements, shouting warnings, and saving more than one soldier's life. At the height of the chaos, Jun-sik betrayed them, turning his gun not on the enemy, but on his boss. "You lost your edge, Hyung. You let her destroy you." The shot rang out. But before it could end Dae-hyun's reign, Jennifer shoved him aside. The bullet grazed her shoulder, blood soaking her blouse. Time froze. Dae-hyun roared like a beast, disarming Jun-sik and nearly killing him with his bare hands. But Jennifer's weak voice stopped him. Don't kill him. Show them you're more than a devil. Show them you can change." Her words cut deeper than any blade. Shaking with fury and pain, Dae-hyun spared Jun-sik's life and ordered him exiled instead. His men, stunned by Jennifer's bravery and the boss's restraint, bowed their heads, seeing a new kind of strength. When the battle ended and silence returned to the docks, Dae-hyun cradled Jennifer in his arms. His empire was scarred, his enemies still lurked, but in that moment none of it mattered. He kissed her, fierce, desperate, full of fire and surrender. "You've ruined me," he whispered. "But if this is ruined, I don't ever want to be whole again." And Jennifer, through her pain, smiled. "You're not ruined, Dae-hyun. You're becoming human." Weeks passed after the bloody night at the docks. Jennifer's wound healed slowly, but what she had planted in Dae-hyun's heart grew faster than either of them expected. For years, he had lived in shadows, where betrayal was currency and blood was language. But with her beside him, those shadows felt suffocating. He began to question every deal, every threat, every drop of blood on his hands. One evening, on the rooftop of his mansion overlooking the glittering city, Dae-hyun finally spoke the words no one thought he could. "I can't give you a life worth living if I stay in this world," he said, his voice trembling. "The Mafia made me king, but it also made me a prisoner." Jennifer placed her hand on his. "Then walk away. Build a new kingdom, one without fear. If you can rule men with blood, you can inspire them with respect." It wasn't easy. Stepping down meant war. Rivals wanted him gone. His men doubted him, and the underworld would never forgive a boss who chose love over power. But Dae-hyun did the unthinkable. He dismantled his empire piece by piece, handing territories to allies and silencing enemies with truce instead of bullets. Many called it weakness, but others saw it as the boldest move of all. Months later, far from Busan's neon alleys, Dae-hyun and Jennifer opened a small fashion boutique in Seoul. Her designs, once hidden in sketchbooks, now bloomed on mannequins. He worked quietly in the background, no longer a mafia king, but a man learning to live in peace. Some nights, the ghosts of his past still haunted him. But whenever he looked at Jennifer, fierce, unbroken, the woman who kissed a monster and revealed the man inside, he knew he had chosen the right ruin. Their love had not only survived the fire, it had built a new life out of ashes. And in the end, the fiercest thing about Jennifer was not that she stood up to a mafia boss, but that she taught him how to kneel not in defeat, but in love. First, the boutique thrived. Jennifer's bold African-inspired designs mixed with modern Korean styles drew attention from young Seoul elites. Dae-hyun, once feared as a mafia king, now stood quietly in the corner, carrying boxes, handling suppliers, and, much to Jennifer's amusement, arguing over fabric prices instead of smuggling routes. But the past doesn't stay buried. One night, as they locked up the shop, a black car lingered across the street. Dae-hyun's instincts sharpened instantly. He recognized the way it idled, the tinted windows, the silence. Enemies hadn't forgotten. Later that week, a note slipped under their boutique door. The king who ran can never hide. Choose, your woman or your peace. Jennifer read it, her jaw tight. They're coming for us. No, Dae-hyun said firmly, burning the note in the ashtray. They're coming for me. But Jennifer refused to let fear rule her. Don't you dare shut me out again. We faced bullets together once. We'll face this too. And so they prepared. Not with guns and blood, but with something Dae-hyun had never used before. Connections, diplomacy, and respect. He called old rivals one by one, and instead of threats, he offered partnerships through legitimate business. Slowly, he shifted his power from shadows to the open world. Still, the attacks came. Broken windows, slashed tires, whispered warnings in dark alleys. Through it all, Jennifer stood by him, fierce as the day she defied him in that leather chair. Her courage became his shield, her vision, his compass. The final test came when Jun-sik, the exiled right-hand man who once betrayed him, returned. Scarred, hardened, but not broken, he approached Dae-hyun not with a gun, but with an offer. You can't erase your past, Jun-sik said, but you can rewrite your future. Let me help you build it. For her. Dae-hyun hesitated, but Jennifer's hand steadied him. Sometimes, she whispered, redemption doesn't come alone. It comes with those who once failed you. Together, they chose forgiveness over vengeance. Years later, their boutique had grown into a fashion house. Their names whispered not in fear, but admiration. Dae-hyun was no longer the mafia boss of Busan. He was simply a man who had loved fiercely, lost everything, and found it all again through a Kenyan girl who kissed him into humanity. And whenever he looked at Jennifer, he knew the empire he gave up was nothing compared to the kingdom they built together. Years later, the scars of the past still lingered, but they no longer defined them. The whispers of mafia boss faded into the background, replaced by applause for Jennifer's fashion shows and quiet respect for the man who walked at her side. Dae-hyun never forgot the blood he once spilled. Yet every day he chose a different path, one paved with peace, love, and the warmth of a home he never thought he deserved. Jennifer's fire never dimmed. It burned brighter, guiding them through every shadow that tried to return. One evening, as they closed their boutique and walked hand in hand through the streets of Seoul, Dae-hyun looked at her and said, almost in wonder, "You kissed a monster and turned him into a man. Why me, Jennifer?" She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Because even monsters deserve a chance at love, and you were brave enough to take it." And so, the tale of the feared mafia king and the fierce Kenyan woman ended not in tragedy, but in redemption. Their love became their empire, their kiss the crown, and their life together the proof that even the darkest souls can find light, if someone dares to stand unafraid. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment. Also like, share and subscribe to my channel and click on the notification icon so that you will get notified whenever a new story is uploaded.